I'm not okay. Yesterday the day started just like every other day. Wake up and start doing chores. Do as many chores as you can before my spouse wakes up, because she has an appointment. Give her her medicine. Go for a walk with my girlfriend. We walked along the water, talked about having a picnic. Get back, and it's just fight, 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 fight. We went to bed the same way as always. The night before that, fight, 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 fight. I don't have any fight left. I can't argue anymore. I can't try to get someone to do things that they should. I've been trying to do that my entire life. I've never succeeded. I've never actually been able to convince anyone to do the right thing in my entire life. I tried my hardest to work my ass off with my parents, with my siblings, with my supposed friends, with children I volunteered with every person I've ever met. I've tried to be a leader and be a good person, and that rub off on people. It doesn't work. Helping people doesn't actually help them. I've never actually improved anyone's life, no matter how hard I've worked in my entire life. And I have worked and worked and worked to the point where I have no fight left. The girls freaked out because I just can't. I just won't argue anymore. I'm not gonna bother trying to convince a diabetic why they should do stuff that helps their diabetes. I'm not gonna fight them anymore. I'm not gonna freaking keep trying to argue with someone why something would be good for them. Even though when they married me, they gave me the right to be their health proxy, and they put me in that position of responsibility, but they don't want me to have that authority anymore. I don't know why, but I obviously wasn't doing it right anyway, because they're still having problems with all their stuff. My spouse says it's comparable, our lives now, to when she was living with her parents, except she's getting raped less. And I'm watching my girlfriend make all the same mistakes and do all the same stuff that I did, trying to pacify and trying to calm down and trying to make things better. And I don't want our girlfriend turning into me. I don't want our girlfriend to be doomed to a life without any hope of anything getting better. Getting to know myself has accomplished something very, very impactful. thinking about what I would like instead of just what is best for everyone. Knowing exactly what you want and it being clear that none of it can ever happen is pretty shitty. It doesn't work if no one wants it either. It doesn't work if no one wants to come with. I just can't argue anymore. I wish I could just stop doing anything for other people, but I can't. It's ingrained in me. It's a compulsion. So I'm not gonna fight anyone anymore. I never push people outside. So I'm not gonna push people now inside of my little inner circle, or however you call it. My girlfriend spent all of yesterday freaking out. She was supposed to be doing a college paper. I kept telling her to. She asked for an extension on it instead, because she thinks I'm catatonic or something. Acted like it's the end of the world. But I just give up. It's all so fruitless. I'm just sick of doing the same things when they don't work. If it doesn't work, there's no point. And it doesn't work. And I should have stopped trying to do it before I ever met either of them. But I didn't. This is just what it is. There's nothing for me to do but accept it. I don't know. I've always tried to make life better for people because I knew it couldn't be better for me. But now I understand why it can't be better for me. When you're the common denominator in every single thing that's ever been wrong in your life. There's not really any way to deny it. Last night they went and did the raid group and they downed us off. They did not need me to do so. One good thing about that is I'll still have the extended lockout, so we can just start it this off again next weekend, but get some more guildies ahead of the curve now. But the girls told everyone, oh, I'm not okay, and I can't read. So they just downed him. We've downed him enough times, I'm not really surprised though. Got 2 more guildies to mount. That's good. I am glad. Now I'm gonna have to deal with a whole bunch of people thinking that, like, I was in a hospital or something, that there was some kind of major emergency. I don't fault anyone. I know our girlfriend was scared. She messaged my spouse's therapist because she was, like, worried. But I'm not dead or dying. I'm still doing all the chores. I just gave up. I just can't fight anymore. I know what I want. And I know why it's never gonna happen. I've gotten like this before. Sorry, there's an airplane flying by apparently. Even though we don't really usually have airplanes fly by. At one point, our girlfriend was super long distance and had no intentions of stopping doing that. I offered to pay for everything. I offered to do everything. I worked out math. I did everything I could think of, and none of it worked. We moved across the country so my spouse could get a specialist. But we also moved to be closer to our girlfriend. And 2 weeks after we moved here, she left to go to a different state, thousands of miles away. And I begged her not to. And she didn't tell us that she was doing that until 2 days after we arrived. But also she didn't know until that day that she was doing it. That she knew something was wrong and didn't tell me with her schooling. So she had to take a break from college and graduate late and go back and get her degree later. And she chose that. And she kept saying she'd come back if we would just wait. We were in a miserable little room. Miserable little room because we had nowhere to live when we first got here. Electricity would hardly ever be on because the landlord would almost never pay the electric bill on time. Internet was always out, but we weren't allowed to ever reset the router. There was no laundry. I had to wash it all by hand and hang it outside to dry. Which was miserable. Smelled like animal urine everywhere. There was no air conditioning and it was in the heat. Everything about it was just awful. And Peaches, my spouse, they wouldn't give her her primary psych med. So she wasn't doing well. And I wasn't doing well. when the neuropsychologist told me what he told me about my spouse, that it could probably be for the rest of her life like this. And I sat there crying my eyes out because I was doomed. The one thing I had was when I got home and I told her girlfriend about it, she swore she would help. And that when we got there, it would be different. But I got there and she just left. But we didn't break up. I kept trying. And she kept saying, oh, in 6 months I'll be back. Oh, well, in a couple more months than that. Oh, in a couple more months now. She kept lying about when she was coming back over and over. I don't think she intended to lie. I think she is addicted to her parents. Even though her parents treat her like shit. I begged her and begged her. And I finally got to the point where I realized if someone loves you, you don't have to beg them to want to be with you or to care about you. You don't have to promise them that you'll pay for college and that you'll work your ass off for them. You don't have to promise that you'll take care of them in every way, shape, and form. If they'll just choose to be with you or even near you. You don't have to keep begging and begging someone to give enough a shit about you to follow through on a single promise, even little ones. Even just a tiny, I'm gonna come talk to you today at this time. Because they know your life is hectic enough that that's a precious amount of time. It didn't matter that I was miserable and breaking. It didn't matter what I did or said or promised under the sun. I could never promise enough that it would have changed her mind. So I finally broke up with her. Because in reality, she had already broken up with us the moment she left. Of course, she doesn't think that. I don't know if she ever could be capable of loving me enough to want to be with me, even if it meant having to get a part-time job while going to college, which is all it would have meant. But that's not what it's about. It's about her parents. She loves her parents, even though they treat her like shit. And I finally got to a point where I just broke, and I couldn't beg anymore. I just couldn't beg. And I said, we're just friends. So then she actually started making plans to move back. Somewhere nearby. 3.5 hours is nearby. And I just went with it. Because I wasn't gonna beg. But I love her. We only saw each other, like, in person a couple times a year. The rest of the time was all just long distance. And she never wanted it to stop being long distance. I mean, she said she did, but she never made a single action to choose that. Until it was more convenient and her parents were more accepting of it. my spouse doesn't actually think that we're all going to end up living together after she graduates. She doesn't trust anything that she says about the future anymore because she lied about it so many times. She doesn't seem to lie about it now, but I don't really trust it either. It's not just because she lied, though. I don't think she actually wants it. She gets so upset at the idea of, having the career that she says she wants. She gets so upset at the idea of us all living together because, she's supposed to have her freedoms and have her time getting to know herself. She gets so upset at the idea of having to talk to her parents or something. All the things that would be her choosing her future, she just resists. It's not just fighting with my spouse to get her to do things that are healthy for her. It's not just fighting and arguing why it's important to brush your teeth or to take a bath, or why it's important to not wear that stinky thing again, or why it's important to set goals, or why it's important to eat, just to eat so your blood sugar doesn't drop. Even though you know you're diabetic, it's not just that. I'm constantly arguing with my girlfriend about, yeah, you should save up your money right now because in less than a year you're starting your life. You're graduating and you're going to be actually working. It's arguing with my girlfriend what's going to happen when she graduates. Her parents are going to want to go to her graduation, even though they had nothing to do with it except some money. Even though they freaking have attempted to sabotage her graduating, we're going to want to go to her graduation, even though we've been there for her the whole freaking time. I'm not going to fight. I already know how it's going to end. I don't have any fight left. I can't try to get people to do things that are good for them. They just don't want to. And yet they tell me I need to. So I go to freaking therapy because they specifically ask me to. And what do I do at therapy but start to get to know myself and discover that literally everything about my life is not how I want it to be, and that I'm completely miserable, and that the reason that I only function above the neck is because I feel absolutely miserable all the time. But I try to just put on a show and wear a facade, fake happy, which is what I've done my entire life when I'm miserable. I pretended when I was a teen, when I was in my early 20s. I don't know if there's ever been a point in my life where I didn't pretend to be happy so that it made other people feel fine. But since I wasn't really in touch with anything anyway, inside myself, whatever. Just like I can offer to work full time and co-sign on loans and get everything going for another person so that they can live with me, just like I'm willing to marry someone so they don't end up back at their freaking parents' basement getting raped. Just like I am willing to just sacrifice and give all of myself for people I love. I have the exact desire for myself, but my compulsion is for everyone else. And that's why nothing I want will ever happen. Because I will continuously be fruitless. I can't stop. It amounts to nothing. Trying to help people have a better life, it doesn't amount to shit. It's the most worthless thing I've ever done, and it's the only thing I've ever done. So I've never done anything worth doing in my entire life. So that's great. Helping people is useless because they don't actually want help. They just want easy. I'm the only one who seems to be into doing it the hard way. I've never met anyone else like me. But I know when I give up on a thing, I give up. If I'm done, I'm done. I always wished the entire time I was growing up, my entire adulthood, I wished that someone loved me so much that they couldn't stand not to have me in their life. That they loved me so deeply that me not being part of their world was just like the worst thing they could imagine. Because that's how I feel when I love people. And people take advantage of that. I just can't fight anymore. Whatever happens, happens, but I'm not pushing. No one else ever has to deal with the consequences in their life because I'm always the one who has to sacrifice, so I'm just done. It's so sad. When I was a kid, the thing I wanted least to ever be was a slave. And somehow I've turned myself into one. Like my whole life. Like even internship in college. I worked my ass off interning. Worked my ass off getting good grades. None of it mattered. Not a single person ever fought for me, even though I fought for everyone around me. I'm always fighting for everyone around me, and no one ever fights for me. No one's ever fought to have me in their life. In my entire life. I mean, technically my dad fought to have all his kids in his life when we were children, but I think that's just because I was part of the group, not because he individually wanted me. He certainly doesn't fight for me now. He hasn't fought for me in my entire adulthood. Even my mom. Now there's a helicopter going by. Apparently air traffic is very big, much, however you say that. There's a lot of stuff going on in the air today. We never have airplanes or helicopters. I have no idea what's up with that. People fight me, they don't fight for me. I've always thought of myself as a living shield, that I protect people around me, that just by being there near them, that they were automatically safer and more well cared for. But that's just not true. Maybe if I was effective at it, but I'm not. I'm not trying to torture anyone or make anyone miserable. I'm not making anyone freak out intentionally. But genuinely, I'm not trying to, emotionally manipulate or something. I'm accepting the way that things are. It leaves a person very hollowed out to realize they've never accomplished anything in their entire life because all they've ever done is invest in people. People who fought every ounce of investment. It doesn't matter who it is. I can think of anyone in my entire life, and I always am codependent or whatever, and it always has never ended well. I've always wished someone would want me and devote to me just as much as I would devote to them back, and would see. Sorry, my spouse talks in her sleep. It's a very loud day. Normally I would just toss this video because there's too many noises, but oh well. I don't have the energy to re-record it. I always wanted to be someone worth being. I'm just not. If I'm a shield, I'm a pretty shitty one. I've never been a sword. I guess I'm just waiting to die. But I've been doing that my whole life, so that doesn't really sound right. I don't know what to call it. But I've only gotten this a couple of times in my life. I was like this pretty much all of my teenage years. I was like this when some of my exes broke up with me. I was like this when our girlfriend just didn't care enough to actually commit. And I think now she's trying to commit. But not fully, not all the way. Even now, she has her own place and I have to drive her there, and I don't think she's even told her parents that we're dating. Like, we're just sort of the back burner relationship. We always have been. And she denies that and says that the rest of her life is the back burner. The quarantine's been nice because at least she's been here, but I mean, it shouldn't take a pandemic to get someone to want to spend time with you. But in the end, it doesn't matter how either of them feel about me, because I love them. And what I want doesn't work if they don't want it to. I want them to be happy and to have a good future. I want to be a man, my little home and my little family. I want to not be in this country. I want to do work that feels fulfilling, even if it's hard. And I want to be loved. But I'm not going to try to force people to give me any of that. They either want it or they don't. I'm done trying to get people to care. I'm done trying to convince people that I should matter to them as much as they matter to me. And my spouse, I make excuses. She can't control illness. She's autistic. She has borderline personality disorder. She's got voices in her head. Whatever it is. Excuses for why she's distant and doesn't give a damn. I make excuses for my father, and I make excuses for my birth mother, and I make excuses for everyone. I make excuses all the time, and I try to show them in a good light. Because I want them to be happy. I may never post this video just because I said something not as great about them, even though it's the truth. But it's not a crime to not love somebody back. Well, I think they do love me some, just not the same amount. I don't think they hate me. I don't know. I'm not gonna argue anymore. I'm not gonna try to get them to. I give up. doesn't mean I'm gonna go kill myself. It just means I accept that things are how they are.